You want to get the best air compressor you can for your budget. Surface plate is not a necessity, but it is good to have. This is a Weller soldering iron. Works great. It's a hobby model. I highly recommend it. Has a sharp point for circuit boards. Something to think about. I mostly use it for Arduino and just miscellaneous projects, which kind of leads me into my next thing I want to talk about. These multimeters, you want to get digital or analog. It's, dealer's choice, but you definitely want at least one. That way, if you're trying to diagnose something, or, even just checking your wall outlet, something to think about. Alright, next up is going to be, storage and hardware, miscellaneous stuff that you're going to want to put away, keep on hand. Nuts, bolts, washers, cotter pins, O-rings, Zerk fittings, you name it. Just trying to show you some of the different storages I have here, including drill bits. Now, you want to try to organize most of your bits. That way, when you're working on your lathe or your drill press, it's right there. You can just reach over, you know the size you need, you grab it, you put it back when you're done. Perfect. Up next is a sandblast cabinet. This in particular one is a 40-pound sandblast cabinet. Now, they make many different sizes, from industrial all the way down to a little benchtop model. I highly recommend getting one of these. I don't think I have to explain what they do, but they're good to have for, cleaning rust off or whatever. Next up is a parts washer. I apologize that it's kind of messy. I'm using it for a bench right now, but this is great for cleaning carburetors, just spindles, whatever you have. You throw it in there, all the nuts, the bolts, the pieces, and they just clean themselves. Same thing with the ultrasonic cleaner. It's just a different type. They come in many shapes and sizes. You can get what you want. Highly recommend it. Makes life a lot easier when you're doing this kind of stuff. This is my, I believe it's a 9x48 belt and a 10-inch disc on the front sander. I recommend getting some kind of a sander for your shop. This one in particular I use to grind down metal, for deburring or just trying to get something to size. If the lathe doesn't cooperate, bring it over here and have at it. This is a Tapmatic head, 30 TC DC. If you've ever done any tapping, it can be a daunting task, especially if you have a bunch of holes to do. This thing just makes it so much easier. Special drill bit I'll show you in a second. Self-reversing, does everything all on its own. Well worth the money if you do a lot. This is the drill bit for it. It's a drill and tap all in one. Again, something to think about. A drill press is something you're going to want to get the best one you can afford. For me, this is a secondary. It's a Harbor Freight model. It works great. I've got no complaints. The tapping head I just showed you, it goes on this drill press. That's basically what I use this for, is for tapping holes. let me show you some of the other ones that I have. These are the other two things I drill with. Again, you get what you can afford. I do recommend spending a little extra on a drill press. This is a bandsaw that I use for most of my cutting. I highly recommend getting one of these. You can use it horizontal or vertical, and the blades themselves are not very expensive. I believe they're like 13 bucks, and if you want to get one of the heavy duty ones, it's like 40 bucks. This stuff right here works. It's a lubricant for the blade. It makes the blades last exponentially longer. I think I paid 15 bucks for this. And again, this is only if your bandsaw doesn't have its own coolant system. If you don't want to go with a bandsaw, you could go with the next thing, which is, this is an Evolution compound miter saw. It's a specialty compound miter saw. It has a metal cutting blade on it. It's not a normal compound saw. It's got a gearbox, so it turns the blade slower than a normal miter saw. That's just something to keep in mind. You know, if you want to throw a metal cutting blade, you know, it might work. I don't know, but it's not something I'd recommend. Aluminum, I guess, wouldn't be kill, but you start cutting stainless or harder steels, I suppose I'd get a little nervous doing that. Now this is a 20-ton shop press. These are great to have. I highly recommend getting one of these. You can do so much with these, whether you're doing car stuff, shop stuff, whatever. If you can't get one of these because you don't have the room or the money, there is a cheaper option. These are arbor presses. Not as good as a shop press. Definitely not as powerful as a shop press. This one here is a 1-ton. Over here, this one is a 2-ton. Both of them work great. I do have a 3-ton somewhere. Unfortunately, I don't know where it is, but you get the idea. This is a 3-in-1 machine. Not a necessity. Something that works great if you do any kind of sheet metal work, making your own boxes, or just kind of fabricating stuff. It's extremely helpful. That's Pebbles, by the way. On the bottom here, you have your brake that cuts your sheet metal. This bends it at 45. And under here is the rollers, if you want to make some kind of a roll out of the sheet metal. Again, works good, very heavy. I've bent 18 gauge with it, I believe, no problems. So it has a good place if you can get one. Now this bender, I think, is very valuable for any shop. I'm always finding myself making things using this. It bends round stock, square stock, whatever. Great for, you know, if you want to make a planter for the little lady, if you want to make your own custom U-bolts, whatever. This is definitely the way to go, and they're inexpensive. Now the welder is an incredibly important part of any shop. You want to get the best you can for your money. I recommend a MIG because they're the easiest to use, but arc welders are the cheapest, and MIG welders are more expensive, but they're obviously more versatile. So, you know, get what you can afford, but you want to get a welder. That's important. If you wonder how I move most of this stuff, well, this is your answer. This is an engine hoist, also known as a cherry picker. I highly recommend getting something like this or a gantry. If you're like me and you don't have much help, to move stuff around. It's invaluable. Save your back. Alright, next up, this is not a necessity, but something I'd recommend if you can afford. Mini lathe has many things, many uses, from thread cutting to making custom parts for, projects. I think I paid $430 brand new for this one. My main goal here was to convert mine to CNC. I've had lots of luck with it. It works great. I cut steel with it, so you don't have to convert yours, obviously. Use it as is. Something to think about if you want to get one. But I suppose if you want to get one of these, then this is a milling machine. Something else to think about. Again, not a necessity, but this is a geared head milling machine. It does not have the size capacity of, say, a Bridgeport, but it's close. It'll do about 30 inches wide, 8 inches deep, and the spindle height is about 5 inches. Now I know, a Bridgeport has a knee adjustment, so much more versatile. But they also weigh 5,000 pounds. Now this I can lift with my cherry picker, put anywhere in my shop or my basement, and saves room. And yeah, taps and dies, and apologize for the mess. I wasn't going to do this, but these are calipers and micrometer. You are going to need some kind of measuring, or at least you should have measuring devices. Now, I recommend getting, well, both if you can. A cheaper brand and a good brand. The cheaper ones have their place. You'll spend $20 on a caliper compared to a Mitutoyo, or say a Brown and Sharp, and if it gets destroyed, or you use it to scribe lines, or you drop it, whatever happens, you're out $20. Compared to doing that with a Mitutoyo, where you're probably gonna cry. It's just food for thought type of thing. Up next is an infrared thermometer. I highly recommend getting one of these. They're relatively inexpensive. It has a laser built in, so you know where you're pointing it, trying to get the temperature. I'm not sure what the max temperature of this unit is, but they obviously have higher temperature ones for melting metal. This one was $20. Now, the next device is a digital tachometer. This basically tells RPMs of something. If you're running your car engine, if you mess around with RC cars, electric motors, it's good to have. And the big thing with this is it's really cheap. I think I picked it up for under $10, shipped to my door. So it really is worth having. Okay, now one of the biggies. Bench space. Get what you can afford and what you have room for. You're never going to have enough bench space, bench top. It's never going to happen. So you get what you can afford, get the best you can, and as you can see, these ones here are from Harbor Freight. I had a good deal, and they're worth the money. Didn't spend a lot on them. Our devices, a 6-inch bench vise, the best you can for your money. You're going to use this a lot, obviously. It's going to see a lot of wear. They come in many different shapes and sizes and types. This next one I'm going to show you is a machinist vise. On the bottom, it has a scale. You can accurately turn it for machining. This is a regular machinist vise, just clamps, 6-inch. And this is a mini machinist vise. Every one of them has their place. It's up to you for what you need. But again, you're going to want to spend a little more money on a vise. That way you get a little better quality. And you are going to end up beating on these and adding a lot of wear to them. So spend a little extra in the beginning and it'll save you some headaches in the end. Bench grinder. Definitely something you're going to want to invest in. This is a 6-inch model. Behind it you see the 8-inch model. I use the one in the front for grinding my tungsten for my TIG welder. The one in the back, it's missing a polishing wheel that I use for polishing up my steel and stainless. Highly recommend getting one or two of these if you can. They're worth the money. Oh, for the most part, this is the list that I came up with for shop tools that, are indispensable. Some that aren't, but you might want to consider anyway. Now, I did, go over stuff like this, collet holders and, files and screwdrivers. Because, I didn't want to make a 3-hour video, and I'm sure you don't want to watch a 3-hour video on this. So, I know I left a lot of stuff out, but I really did try to get some of the highlights. If I left some important stuff out, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll redo this, try a different one. But in any case, don't forget to subscribe if you made it this far. And I hope everyone has a good one. Bye.